Alrighty, welcome to the channel, guys. We're gonna talk about part of Ryan's book review for Plato. So my question is, what are we discussing about today?
Today we will be discussing the Crito, which is the second dialogue in the book. Is in a nutshell, it is Plato's, or not Plato, but Socrates' friend Crito, with him in the prison, basically trying to convince him to escape from captivity, so he may avoid execution.
Alrighty, and the execution occurred after the apology, correct?
Yes, the execution basically it takes place in the Phaedo, which is the third dialogue in the book. This one, it's just Crito trying to convince Socrates to escape, and Socrates giving his reasons why he refuses to do so.
Alright, why was Crito so concerned with changing Socrates' mind as far as him choosing to stay instead of choosing the option to leave?
Well, for Crito, as well as Socrates' other friends, they basically saw it as a calamity that they would have to lose their friend in this way because they all were there for the farce of a trial and realized that justice was not done, so they felt that it wasn't right for Socrates to be put to death, considering it was an unjust decision on the part of the jury. And basically, the way Crito puts it is that it's going to be a double calamity for him because not only will he lose his friend to this injustice, but also it will stain his own reputation, considering most people will think um, that he didn't do enough, or that he thought more of money than saving his friend, because it was very much a possibility spending enough money to be able to get Socrates conveyed to safety instead of executed, of course. So he saw it as a double calamity, both for his reputation and for his loss of a friend.
So could you explain why Socrates felt like staying was the best possible choice, considering his wisdom and knowledge of knowing his ignorance?
Well, Socrates, first he basically, as he's accustomed to doing, he dismantles Crito's uh, Crito's objections to him. Basically, first off, he says, as far as what the reputation is concerned, he says, doing the right thing, of course, is more important than considerations of reputation or anything else, um, and it doesn't really matter what most people think. Most reasonable men, or reasonable men and women, or whoever in general, are um, going to realize that the case is exactly as it is, and that he chose to stay himself rather than his friends not putting up enough money or effort to save him. And he goes into a little bit of a philosophy of why it's important to disregard bad opinions, which are most opinions, and why you should only really listen to the few people who are authorities in any given field, whether it be right or, just or unjust, or whether it be something else. He gives the illustration of a trainer and his athlete, and he says, would it be right for the athlete to listen to most people's opinions, or to everyone's opinions, in regards to how he should train and how he should eat, or should he listen to the one qualified expert? And of course, Crito admits he should listen to the one, qualified expert, rather than most people's opinions on the matter, because they are not qualified, and the athlete would have a ruined body, a ruined health, rather than being trained as he should be trained, because he didn't listen to the expert. And he sort of uses that in the sense of why you should really listen to only either the true authority, whether it be God or the few wise people that there are, rather than most people on any given subject. Now, it's and a little bit more as to why he should stay instead of leave, which that was your major, the main part of your question, right?
From the last video, yeah. In your opinion, why do you think, in your opinion, him choosing to stay
Right.
is the option or
Okay.
going.
Well, oh, you're asking why Socrates chose that, or
What your
what
opinion
my
on
opinion on his choice? Well, I
your
think I'll have to explain why, which I think you asked already, but I'll have to explain why Socrates chose that course of, that course, and then what I think of it. Well, Socrates basically, like I said, he dismantled the idea of, you have to pay attention to what other people think or consider your reputation before, what is right. Of course, you have to consider what is right first and foremost. And he basically said the right thing to do was to stay because when he considered um, all these things and what was the right thing to do, he imagined the laws of Athens and the Athenian constitution coming forward to question him. And it's very much a Socratic dialogue between him and the laws. And basically the laws ask him, you know, such things as, did you not choose to, abide by a covenant with us? And that covenant, part of that covenant is, or there's a law that all judgments, once they have been decreed, um, they are binding. And Socrates would have to admit that he did, and that he's a 70-year-old man now, and upon attaining to manhood, if he was not happy with the laws in the Constitution of Athens, he had the choice at any given time to leave Athens either for a colony of Athens or for a, a, a foreign country. But he chose not to do so because clearly he was satisfied with the laws in the Constitution. And by leaving or by running away, he would be breaking the laws. He would be essentially, I think of it when I was reading it, kind of brought to mind Kant's deontological ethics, which basically says, you ought to act in a way that your actions or your decisions were to be a universal law or a universal rule for all human behavior. And if everyone acted in the way that Socrates would have acted had he left, then there would be, you know, law and order would just be entirely overthrown the if the decrees of the laws were just willy-nilly overturned by private persons. So that's a major issue, or that's a major reason, rather, that Socrates chose to stay. And another aspect of that is he not only was he 70 years old, as the laws are questioning him, they ask such things as, he basically has to admit that more than almost anyone else, if not anyone else, he was most bound to that covenant or social contract because like I said, he had 70 years to choose to leave Athens, and he never even chose to, leave Athens even for visits, even to see the way foreign constitutions and governments run, even for, his own edification. He never chose to really leave Athens, and the only time he ever left the city was for military expeditions. So, more than anyone else, as he says himself, he entered into that covenant, and to break it, he would be not only a lawbreaker and not only an overthrower of order, but he would be doing the wrong thing, which is ultimately what it boils down to, whether he's doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. And he decided, after this sort of imagined dialogue with the laws, that, he would be doing the wrong thing, and that side spoke to him so loudly, he says, that he couldn't hear the other side because, you know, the other side there was holes in the argument, like when Crito tried to persuade him, like I said, as far as the reputation is concerned, or even bringing up his children. Crito argued that, hey, look, you won't be able to bring up your children if you're executed. And Socrates, when he touches on that topic, he says, well, you know, what am I going to do? Make foreigners of them? Make outcasts of them? I mean, don't I trust my friends that they're worth something, that they will actually take care of them when I'm gone? So That's Socrates' side. Now, as far as what I think of what Socrates' argument is and whether he did the right thing and whether his reasoning was sound, in a nutshell, yes, I do. And the interesting thing is, I've read this dialogue a few times, and the first time I read it, I wasn't entirely convinced, but it seems like the more and more I read it, the more he seems to be irrefutable on this subject. He gives too much reasoning and too much right reasoning as to why it was right for him to stay. I mean, as he says, when it's over with, he will leave this world as someone who a wrong was done to him, not by the laws or the Constitution, but by his fellow citizens. And had he chosen the other course, when he did leave this world, he would have left as a lawbreaker, and he would be, as he says, basically indicted in the next world as a breaker of the laws, which are, as he sort of put it, the laws, the brothers of the laws of that next world, which are the laws of this world.
So, as far as my personal question for you, as far as the laws and the breaking of laws and whether people acknowledging them and choosing to understand them and do their time or whatever their case may be, do you think that would play a huge role in the world today if that was more followed?
Well, you're indicating that you don't feel like...
Kind of like, for example, right, if someone knows they're in trouble or someone knows they have a warrant out for their arrest currently in this day and age, or they've done a crime and they know that they're in the possibility of being locked up or executed or whatever their case may be, majority of the time a lot of them choose to run, evade, or not learn or acknowledge from what they've done. If the world was to, let's say, 70% more of people were to follow the same way that Socrates did in acknowledging their wrongs and serving their time, whether it be just or unjust, do you think it would play a huge role in the world?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to kind of tackle different aspects of that question. First off, as far as Socrates, I mean, I'm not saying that you meant that, but you kind of implied that Socrates was wrong by saying that, like Socrates acknowledging their wrongs. I don't believe that Socrates was wrong, and I do believe that it was unjust as far as him being, tried on trumped up charges and being put to death. But as far as other people are concerned that actually do break the laws, or what you will, for one thing, I think if more people were like Socrates, we would have a lot less crime in the world today, because he was somebody who actually listened to his very loud, very well developed, and very mature conscience. And I think just reading what I've read by him so far, what I've read of him so far, I would say, I liken him to people in the past that were basically saints, people that were very holy or very pure or very righteous or very just in their behavior. And of course, if we had more people in the world like that, the world would be a better place. So.
All right, and for my last question, do you think that this dialogue in specific would be very good for students in the generation we live in now for their education? For example, like a lot of people like to do William Shakespeare, and they get quizzes and tests on him and write their own like little section of paragraph or stories that intertwine with some kind of like analogy or resemblance to Romeo and Juliet. Do you think this could be one of the dialogues that fits pretty well for our education today?
Well, yes, but I also want to add something in that everything I've read by Plato so far, I would agree that it's something that should be taught. Um, I think it would be an amazing change in our education system if we actually had a philosophy class that, even if it's just an elective, a philosophy class in our high schools. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no high schools that have that, but certainly not the public schools I went to. But yes, I think Plato's dialogues, I mean, even before the university level, I think that it's something that should be generally taught and known. I think it's, in my estimation, it is just as culturally important as some of the other very great or very significant, influential works throughout, our civilization. Um, and I think, it's something that, you know, for as an example, Plutarch wrote his biographies of the great Greek and Roman statesmen in order to help instill virtue in the reader by basically showing the virtuous aspects of a person's character and how that caused them to have the success they did, and also the vice in the person's character and how often it caused their own, their downfall. But I think reading Plato's dialogues in many ways will help to instill a virtuous disposition, or at least reinforce virtue in oneself, because you're dealing, with a very noble person in Socrates.
Alrighty. Well, I think that covers all of my questions, and I think that pretty well covers this dialogue pretty well. What do you think?
I think so too.
So we'll end this here. We got more dialogues coming from Plato. I think we got, what, 2 more?
Oh, there's plenty more than that.
Oh, well, we got plenty more. So definitely drop a like on this video, smash that comment button, and subscribe to his blue-collared shirt, because it looks great. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Definitely let us know what you think. Let us know other ideas. Let us know everything that you feel like is comfortable to pick up, and we'll pick out some different things, different books or readings or whatever y'all think are new. I think a good start later on in the philosophy section would be Thinking Fast and Slow. If I can't get him to read it, I'll go through the torture of reading it just to give a good book review on it, because I think it's generally a good book. And I think it would be great for other people to know about. I don't know. He would agree with that. He just doesn't like the title. He's a title hater. So, but we will see you guys in the next video. Be prepared. I think, how long is it going to take you? How long on average do you think it's going to take you?
The next video should be, we should be. I should read the dialogue probably today, maybe today or tomorrow.
Is it small?
It's a fairly long dialogue, a lot longer than Crito, but it's doable.
So it's kind of around apology?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe longer.
So, yeah, we'll have that. So maybe about a week, we'll have another book review reading video out for y'all. So we will definitely see you guys soon. Keep them notifications on so y'all can keep up to date with all of this. Have a great day, guys.